One of the most common mistakes I see new traders make is not understanding where the high probability zones are. When we're talking about supply, we're looking for areas where price has made an aggressive move downward. And so we can see there's an aggressive move downward here. I think we had some news this day. You may have been in the market or watching the market on the day that we had this large drop. And we know that as seasoned traders, we certainly would not hop in during this drop. We would wait for a retest. And so you could have been using your strategy here and drawn this trend line here with 1, 2, 3 touches here, and notice the break there, and then waited for the retest using the trend line. And you could also keep in mind that this area that it went back up to was a supply area. And so what you would do is use your rectangle tool to draw the supply. And the supply area that we would be looking for is the last push up before a big push down. And you could either draw it here, or you could start drawing down here in this area. This is the last big push up here. And I'm using my rectangle tool, and I have this as part of my favorites, and I've also saved it as a template. So I would look for 1 hour supply, and I have that here. All right. And so you can see there's a little 1H, which stands for 1 hour. And so what you would have had to have done was wait for a price to come back to this area, back up here into this zone, and then you would look for your 3-bar reversal. And we have it here, 1, 2, 3. Or you could look for it on to the 5-minute and taking a look to see if there was a sell signal. And yes, there is on the 5-minute. Here's our first bar, our second, and our third. And so that would have been a good place to get into the trade with stops above the high. But you can see that if we go back out to the 1 hour, that we do have our trend line here. We have a trend line, and we have our supply zone here. We have a strong push down from that zone, and we can see where price has come back up and retested. So we can use our path tool, and we can see that price was up here. It came down and broke the trend line, came back up into the trend line to retest it, and also went up into supply, and then continued downward. All right, and so that's a good example of our strategy, which is break and retest, using our supply zone as another confirmation that price is retesting and may continue downward. All right, and we can also look for an area where price is going up. And so if we go back a little bit in time, we can see that we could have drawn another trend line here. And this one started all the way back on October 3rd, and we could have drawn it down just like this. We can use our path tool and see that we had a break here. And then we retested this trend line and then continued upward. We could also take note of the demand zone. So demand zones are near the areas of support. So this is a pretty strong move up. So the last push down started about here. So you would draw it here. And so that's covering this entire area. And I've got a 1 hour demand zone, and I like for mine to be blue, and you can see it there. So we can see that price went up here and came back down into this demand zone and then continued upward. So take a look at the 15-minute time frame. You see the price is coming back down, and here's a very nice 3-bar reversal here. Here's our first at 8:30, our second at 8:45, and our third at 9 a.m. So we could have entered the trade at 9:15. Or if you're more conservative, you could have entered after the 9:30 open. After this, here's a nice buy signal, a hammer. You could have entered here. All right. And so that's a good example of how our break and retest strategy can play out. And we can also take note of the supply zones and the demand zones and use those as extra confirmation and confluence.